Okay, we have success. Sorry about that. We're going to be talking about how to argue with a narcissist. And anybody who has ever been in a relationship with a narcissist and has run into problems know that this is a tricky topic. It is something that is so frustrating. They have this uncanny ability of running around the circles, making us feel very crazy, feeling stupid. I end up often when I was arguing with a narcissist, I would end up stumbling over my words, backtracking what I said. In fact, on a live recently, it happened where you guys all got to watch me with somebody who was, he wasn't a narcissist, it was somebody, a different personality disorder, but they had gotten me backed into a corner and I would probably went red faced and shut down. So today we're going to talk about how do you successfully have a conversation with somebody who is deliberately not wanting to be cooperative, who's deliberately making it very extremely hard to make any sense, to actually undermine the point and the purpose of what you're discussing. Um, I know some of you have been requesting on Instagram that you join my live. I don't accept requests to go live unless we've talked about ahead of time. So, I just want you to know that I won't be taking anybody spontaneously just because I don't know you and I don't know the intention of why you're asking to go live. But thank you for being here and joining me on this. And for those of you who aren't familiar with me, I'm Dr. Kerry McAvoy, a licensed psychologist with over 20 years of counseling experience. And I've been into a relationship with a narcissist and I've struggled with arguments with a narcissist. So we're going to jump in and talk about why arguments go wrong. What could we do? What can we do instead the next time that something comes up? Handle how do we handle the way that they end run us, avoid accountability, gaslight us during the conversation? How do we handle the fact that we probably won't get an apology, or certainly um, if we're looking for some kind of closure, how do we get any closure around any of this? And this is what we're going to be talking about today. So I'd love to take any of your questions about this as you're listening to me, and maybe you're thinking of a situation that you're facing right now. Love to have you pop in a statement. Hey, Kim, so good to see you. I'm live right now across 3 different platforms, so it could get a little crazy, and I may miss your comment. So it really helps me a lot if you put a thumbs up in front of what you're saying so that I know that you're talking to me and not talking to each other, because a lot of you have really great conversations with each other. Hey, and on YouTube, I see Mariel and Scrap-Along. I'm Scrap-A-Mail. I always call you Scrap-Along. Sorry, it's actually Scrap-A-Mail, but I appreciate both of you so much. I know that you follow me on YouTube, and I just really love that you're hanging out with me. Thank you for being here today. So how many of us have ever argued with a narcissist? Hands up. Actually, why don't you put a 1 in the comment section if you've ever argued with somebody you think probably was narcissistic or certainly had a lot of narcissistic qualities. And I'd love to know, all right, you guys are already like, yep, 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 yep. And how well did that go? So Jen said whenever the narcissist in her life argued with her, he would bring a bunch of flowers as his way of saying sorry. Yeah, so, yeah, it's easy to shut down. Yeah, in fact, Marcus is saying it's just not worth it. I think a lot of us end up feeling that way in these toxic relationships, that it's just not worth it, that we end up giving in or not bringing topics up, or we just avoid whatever it is that is touchy that we need resolution. We just don't go there. That's what I would do. I would find a way to kind of avoid the issue. If I could, like, handle it myself and I didn't need this person's feedback, then I wouldn't seek their information. I wouldn't seek their opinion or get their I wouldn't get yeah, get their opinion or recommendation. I would just sort of avoid the whole thing. Yeah, they turn everything around and they end up blaming you. I was shocked the number of times that I would think that the issue I was bringing up was innocuous, like, no big deal thing. I was just maybe looking for a yes or no or, "Hey, thank you, go for it." And instead, it ended up turning into this situation in which I was the bad guy, that I was doing it. Why would I even think of that? How could I have possibly think that what I was presenting would work? How unprofessional of me or how thoughtless of me. It was fascinating how something is just as simple as just getting validation or getting, cooperation ended up turning into a big deal that I deeply regretted ever seeking their input at any level. Just I regretted it. I have a feeling this happens to a lot of us. Part of what's happening is that narcissistic people don't want to have any hint of accountability and responsibility, but they also love to take the opportunity to lord it over people, to show you up. They love to show you up, show that somehow they know more or they're better at or, that you're just not together. It's a great way for them to take this opportunity to put you in your place as if I mean, this is the wild thing. Most of us, when we ask their opinion, aren't trying to elevate ourselves. We're not trying to act like we have all the answers, but they have treating it as if it's a challenge, and they have to make sure they put us in our place with this challenge. It's just bizarre how that happens. I found that it just was difficult to talk about anything. It was very difficult to talk about anything. So I started trying to avoid it, or I would try to find new ways of bringing it up in a non-confrontational way, as if that worked. Yeah, I agree, Marcus. They answer a question with a question. Now, one of mine would do if I ever put him on the spot around something sensitive, he'd say, "Well, you're the expert. What do you think?" And then if I said, "Well, I really wanna know what you think," he'd say, "Yeah, but you're the expert." And he would just like, you know, he would double down on that and then push again. I have a feeling, Marcus, that that's exactly what you're expressing is that you're express that they doubled down on it, or they just avoided it by deflecting. What you're kinda sharing is a deflection. It's exhausting, I agree. Somebody else said it's just exhausting, and it ends up where most of us just stop trying to have conversations. We stop going there because, something as simple as what do you want for dinner? This big, long that's the other thing. Have you ever noticed how they give long explanations? They overtalk. They talk around, they talk above, they talk below, and they can't simply answer the question. They have to give this almost like a dissertation on the topic. And I find myself at that point, I'm done. I just get exhausted, and I wish I'd never brought the subject up. But all of this is a way for them to avoid being put on the spot to being held accountable. I remember whenever I would bring up a topic, mine would say, "And now what did I do wrong?" As if just me saying, "Hey, can we talk about now what did I do wrong?" I wasn't saying you did anything wrong. I just wanted to talk about something. But they already set it up that I'm the bad guy and I'm attacking this poor helpless person who's just trying to be a good guy or a wonderful woman, and I'm somehow, like, going after them for something. Just got super, super uncomfortable. Oh, Gen X Warrior is sharing something that she just had a narcissist that she's talking to, and now he's threatening to harm himself. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, they'll do that too. You'll confront them about a big issue, and the way they'll shut you down around the big issue is then they'll raise the ante one up you in one way or another by threatening to hurt themselves or threatening that maybe that you're trying to make this an antagonistic situation, that you're trying to, like, trap them in something. You'll get that as well, where they'll flip it on you and then make it out that you have ulterior motives, that you're just trying to get them into this position. They make you the defender. Yeah, exactly. Tit for tat. You're so exhausted, and then you end up having to defend yourself because you simply brought up an issue that you hoped that would be addressed. It's it's exhausting. It just makes the conversation not worth it at any level. So what I wanna do today, for those of you who don't know me, I'd love to have you follow me. Thank you so much for being here. I wanna talk about what do you do when this happens? How do you handle it so that you at least feel like you have some closure, that you give yourself closure in this? So this is what I wanna help us get to that place, and I wanna tell you some tricks and things that I learned surviving that narcissistic relationship, things that I try to do today. I can't tell you it's easy to do. I'm not going to promise this is something that you can easily just implement because it takes a lot of takes a lot of control, yeah, willpower. I'm struggling with words today. I just taped 3 episodes of Breaking Free from Narcissistic Abuse. If you guys aren't following us, we're now on all these platforms. You look for us, Breaking Free from Narc Abuse. That's how you find us. But we just taped 3 more, and oh man, they were like really powerful, deeply personal. In fact, I can tell you the topics. One was Why narcissists have to ruin all the holidays. We're gonna say that one when we get closer to Thanksgiving and Christmas. Another one was, what do you do when you have a narcissistic partner who's telling you they're changing and they're going to therapy, but nothing's getting better? And then the last one was, what was the last one? The last one was about, what should you do when you're in a complete confused fog and you don't know what's real anymore and you can't make any decision at all because every decision feels like a bad decision. So that's the one we're going to be, they're all upcoming on Breaking Free from Narcissistic Abuse, the podcast, coming up in the next few weeks. So it's going to be great. I'm super excited about this. And in fact, Tara and I are talking about even going live together, having the Free podcast stream. Wouldn't that be fascinating? I would love that. That would be great. So I hope if you haven't started following us on wherever you listen to your podcast, I hope you'll check us out. But we're also now have accounts on, we've spun the brand off onto its own and we have accounts everywhere. So I'm super, super excited about that. You'll see that I'm sharing some content across the platforms so you can hopefully find us that way. But please become a subscriber of ours. I would love that. So, how do you argue with a narcissist without being spun into a top, losing your mind, or feeling completely worn out and like you want to go to bed and you're done for the day? How do you do that? The first thing I would recommend that you do is that you go in with a clear plan of what you hope to achieve in that conversation. You have to have a clear plan, even if it's something simple. And it may be just that you're deciding who's picking the kids up today, or what's for dinner, or um, whether or not you're going to accept a friend's invitation to go out as a couple. Whatever it is, you have to go in with a clear plan of what it is that you want out of that conversation. That helps a whole lot to know what your objective is. And it may just simply to get a yes or a no. Maybe it is to finalize some, situation so that you know how it's going to be working out, but really, really helps because that's what's going to be your anchor. I want you to use that as an anchor point. It's super helpful because often you might go into this, believe it or not, you might go into this, think this can be a productive conversation. I know if you lived with a narcissist after a while, you give up on that, but you might be under the illusion that you can have a productive conversation. But if you don't have a clear plan of what you want to get out of it, they're going to like wind you up and shift you into so many different directions. You may not even know that what you wanted to start out talking about. You may lose track. That's what I do. I find that I lose track of my original point, and now I'm arguing over here, and then I'm talking about, let's take the one about who's picking the kids up from school. Next thing you know, you're talking about what they're wearing to school or why they're wearing to school or who's packing their lunch or whether or not they should be in soccer this year. You end up on all these other tangents instead of just getting the original issue addressed. So it's super helpful to go in with a clear plan. That's my first piece of advice. Exactly. I agree, Kate. It's so confusing because it ends up with all these different directions. And they often see you insinuating things that you never meant to insinuate. They may then suddenly you may hear like, "Are you saying that I am not a good driver?" "No, I just want to know who's picking the kids up today." You're not saying anything about the driving, but next thing you know, you're defending your original point. So know what it is that you're going into, that what the point is that you're going into. That's super, super helpful. By the way, I am have this is kind of off the topic, like actually really off the topic. But if you sign up for my newsletter, and the links are everywhere, it's on my website as well. I'm offering a free lesson on how to stop obsessing about your ex. So if you'd like a free lesson from me, it includes a video, some exercises, and some kind of practical reflection questions to sort of ask yourself about. Check out and sign up for our newsletter and check it out. It's free to anyone who signs up, and I would love to share that with you. I'm super excited. I'm sharing with you a technique that I have used with loads of clients, hundreds of clients in the 20 years I counseled. It's something I use with myself that has really helped me. Believe it or not, you may not know this, but I struggle with anxiety. I actually have had history of panic attacks. And I have used it to sort of, I can be OCD-ish. I can be really obsessive. and real, perfectionistic. And I've used it successfully with myself to help manage the worst of the symptoms and really talk myself off of some ledges. So if you would like to get help with that, please check out and sign up for my newsletter. And then it's your free gift for doing that. And I really, really appreciate that. So that's the first thing, is go into an argument with a clear plan. The second thing is, and here's the super hard piece. Are you guys ready? You gotta buckle in for this one, because it's not easy to do. And I struggled doing it the entire time I was in the relationship with a narcissist. The second thing you have to do is you have to be in the position of emotionally disconnecting your investment over the narcissist being cooperative with you, or even thinking highly, or of the conversation going well. You have to become emotionally detached. Now, I know for those of you who want to keep this relationship alive and functional and healthy and full of love, I'm actually telling you to kill it. So it's not, if you're planning to have this really great close relationship, which my first thought is, how are you doing that? I don't know how you're having a close relationship with somebody who's arrogant, always the center of the attention, sucks, all the energy out of the room into themselves. Um, has to be the winner in every situation. I don't know how you're managing that, because I found it extremely difficult to manage that. I found it really crushed me personally. So I find that hard. But if you're trying to keep a loving relationship, then this advice isn't going to work. It's going to actually kill your connection. But I want you to hold on to this thought that the best way to go into an argument with or any kind of discussion with a narcissist is to be no longer invested in their answer, and no longer invested about how they think or feel about you. You have to emotionally detach, so that whatever they say, because they're super good at knowing your hot buttons, they probably know your buttons better than you do. They're going to push them. They're going to make sure, not only push them, they're going to like pound on them. You ever see that whack-a-mole game when you go into an arcade center? They're going to act like you're a whack-a-mole, and they're going to make sure they pound on every one of your hot spots, your hot buttons, in order to stir you up and get you going. Because think of this strategically. If this was a fight, what's the best way to keep, and by the way, they do view you as the enemy. You're not the teammate. You're not their partner and somebody. You're the enemy, because they are always in competition with everybody. So what's the best way to deal with competition? Well, you want to throw them off and get them distracted. That's the best way to win in any situation, is to create enormous amount of confusion and distraction. So treating you like whack-a-mole is a great way of throwing you off your game and getting you off the point. So they're going to do that. Jen said, exactly. That was my description. I was the mole being whacked. Yeah, exactly. That's the point. They want to completely throw you off. So the way to deal with this is to no longer be affected. And the only way to not be affected by it is by being emotionally detached. Super hard, super hard. I know for me, when you love somebody, you want them to think highly of you. You want them to respect you. You want them to validate you. You'd like to have their support. And so when you go into a discussion, you're assuming that that's going to come out of that discussion, that this person sees you as somebody who's on their side, and you're going to work together to have a good solution. But unfortunately, narcissists' investment is solely in themselves, solely in themselves. And that's not their goal. And we are vulnerable when we assume that is their goal. I know I make that error all the time. I go into most relationships assuming that I'm in a relationship with a healthy person. I don't realize that most of the world's not healthy, and I need to like mentally make that shift. I'm urging you mentally to make that shift, to recognize that 20% of the world is predatory, outright predatory, and that the majority of the world probably is not terribly healthy. So assume most people are going in for themselves. I think a great example is the video that was shown last week by a woman who was asked for her phone number from a stranger. When she said no, he hit her with a brick in the face. Why would someone do that? You know what made it worse is there was a whole bunch of bystanders who did absolutely nothing. I would have assumed in that situation that people would have come to my rescue. And I certainly wouldn't assume that just because I said no, I was going to get smacked for saying it. I wouldn't expect that someone would haul off and hit me with a brick. We have to anticipate that people are not going to react positively to us for us being healthy. And we need to anticipate that we may get hurtful reactions, harmful reactions. So I recommend that you become emotionally detached. And I have to remember that because every time a troll interacts with me, I have to admit it, it works me up. But I need to realize that I don't know this person and their investment means nothing to me. And that's why it even gets harder. The closer they are to you, the harder this becomes because our investment is so high. We want people that we love and care about to have a good opinion of us. And then when they push our hotspot buttons, we want to defend ourselves so that we're understood. That's the driving desire, at least in my case. I want to be understood. So I'm willing to go to a lot of length to try to make things right between me and that person. But to successfully argue with a narcissist, you have to no longer care that they have a misperception of you. So let that sink in for a second, what I'm saying. That means when they accuse you of something, you don't defend it. That means when they bring up how you always do XYZ and you know it's an exaggeration, you don't defend it. That's why when they turn it around and make you like you're the bad parent or you're the bad partner or you're the one messing up at work, you don't correct it. You let it stand. That I find. So it's really important with to fight well, you have to know where your weaknesses are. And that's one of my biggest weaknesses is that I want people to perceive me as perceive it as correct. And when someone accuses me of something I'm convinced is not true about me, I get really upset. So it's important for you to know what makes you really upset. What are your hot buttons? Maybe it's something else. Maybe you just hate to have people not listen to you. Or maybe it really upsets you to and I'm trying to think of all these different possible ways it could be super upsetting. But for me, I want people to understand me and know who I am and attribute good things about me. True things, not necessarily false good things, but true good things about me. So I end up exactly defending my position. I love that. That's a great way to put it. You end up defending your position. And when you start to defend, you've lost. Let me say that again. You start to defend, you've lost. Your position's been lost. So to fight with a narcissist and win, you have to not defend your position. By the way, let's flip it around for a second. They don't defend their position with you. They distract you. They make no effort to tell you that you're wrong. They just gaslight you. They word salad you because they know that they're right and they know that you're wrong and they then end up like completely flipping it on you, making you the problem, not them. So we need to I'm not saying take a play from their playbook because that's not exactly what I'm saying, but I do think it's important that we get into the same mindset of not needing their approval, not needing their acceptance, and certainly not needing their love for us to feel okay in ourselves. Because if they know that's what you want in a relationship, then boy, they're going to take the advantage of that all the way to the end. It's super hard. I know I come into certain situations with a preset. I know that there's certain places and certain people and certain roles that trigger me where I tend to work harder to get this person's approval, but I'm not free. I'm not free from being manipulated and exploited until I go into these situations uninvested. Your position of strength is your lack of investment. As I said, this is not great advice if you're trying to keep a romantic relationship healthy because this will destroy a healthy relationship. You have to be invested in your partner to have a good, strong relationship. Oh, thank you for recommending that, Dolly. Change it. Dolly's recommending Dr. Henry Cloud. He's been writing about boundaries forever. He's been, I think, writing about it since at least the late 90s, early 2000s. And the book she's recommending, Changes That Heal, the 4 Shifts That Make Everything Better That Anyone Can Do. I love the title. It's a great title. Yeah, she said it's really very good information, and she's going to keep listening. Yeah, thank you for that. I really appreciate that. And Jean, thank you so much for the gift today. I appreciate that too. So let's go back to the first thing that I said today. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. Kerry McAvoy, and I hope that you follow me. My accounts have been slow growing, and it's been sad. I mean, so I appreciate it when you follow me here. So thank you so much for that, and thank you for liking this too. But the first thing that you need to do is go in and know what you want out of the discussion. Go in firm about what it is that you're looking for and what the topic is. That way, and treat that like your anchor. It's your anchor. If it's like we want to decide who's picking the kids up, know in your mind that that's the point. We want to know who's picking the kids up, and then we're trying to come to a decision. That's your anchor. The second the second piece of recommendation is to be emotionally uninvested in the outcome, be emotionally uninvested in how the person perceives you, or even whether or not they like the topic that you're bringing up or not. It's super, super helpful to do that. Oh, thank you for Erica for buying a badge. I appreciate that. It's super, super helpful. Yeah. So someone's throwing me off as why I have a fluffy microphone upside down. Why is it upside down? Because that's why it's not my eyes in front of me, in front of the camera. The camera is right there. And so that's why I keep it out of the way. And it's not upside down to me. It's right side up to me. What a funny topic to come up. That's funny. Yeah. So the second piece is be emotionally disconnected. The third thing I would say, if you want to learn how to fight with a narcissist and win, is stick to the topic. Now, this is one's hard because you feel stupid doing it. You may even wonder if you're starting to sound sarcastic or snarky. So you'll have to watch your tone. It's really important how you deliver this. But when you don't get to a topic or answer that you want and they start to do this end run around you and bring everything up, repeat what it is that you want an answer to, and then just stay on task over and over and over until you finally get an answer. So let me give you, for instance, of how this would work. Let's again use the example of who's picking the kids up today. You start the argument. You start the conversation. Hey, I wonder if you thought about who should pick up the kids today. And all right, they already like launched. There you go again. How come you leave everything to the last moment? I can't believe we're discussing this now. And then you stay emotionally detached. You know that's the point, and you revisit again. Yes, but I'd like to know, are you up to picking the kids up today? Well, why? Where are you going? What are you gonna do? Are you doing something you shouldn't be doing? What's this all about, and why are you bringing it up now? Well, I'd like to know if it works for you to pick up the kids today. You just stay on point. No matter where they take this conversation, you revisit it and you stay on point and you circle back. And you don't jump off into one of these side topics. You keep on point. It's about deciding who's picking. Then you might even say, are you offering to pick up the kids today? You might even say that. Or say, I'm not able to pick the kids up today, but I can make it possible if they don't mind waiting. But you know how the kids are about that. So are you free to pick up the kids? And then you just stay on it over and over and over until there's an answer. One time I did this when it nearing the relate and near the end of the relationship, when I started to really start to check out and I knew we were doing bad and I knew this wasn't going to go well and I just didn't see things changing. I learned this tactic, and it was hard to do. In fact, it happened where I believed I caught him texting somebody else. In fact, I knew he was texting. Well, it wasn't me. He wasn't texting me. It was a woman. I saw the woman's image, and enough to know. Even enough to know I knew it wasn't family. That he was talking to somebody that wasn't a relative. So I said, "You're texting someone." I said, "You're texting someone." No, I'm not. I'm not texting anyone. I said, "Yeah, I saw you texting someone. Who are you texting?" Well, I was texting my family member. I said, "No, it wasn't your family member. You're texting someone." And we got it. And I kept doing this over and over and over. And he would like, "No, I'm not. And you're seeing things wrong, or I can't talk to you about anything." And I just kept saying, "You're texting someone. So who are you texting?" And we went to bed that way. We didn't get an answer. He refused to give me his phone, which then I said, "Well, and now I know that you were texting somebody that you shouldn't have been because you won't give me your phone." He woke up the next morning after us sitting on this with no answer. And he again said, "Well, I'm sorry that you're really upset. I didn't mean to upset you." I said, "I'm not upset. I didn't make it up. You were texting someone. Who were you texting?" In other words, I'm still saying on the same point. He finally looked at me and said, "Okay, if I tell you, you got to promise me not to get upset." I said, "All right, who are you texting?" And then he told me. So you just have to stay on task, stay on task, stay on the point. Don't move off the point. You have to be almost like robotic. That's what I would recommend. You have to do it in a way that's not has no inflections, no like emotional flavor that suggests, rage or judgment or criticism. You have to just like almost gray rocking is the best way I can think of it. You have to be dull, flat, void of reaction, and just stay on point over and over and over and over. Now, most of you are saying, this is exhausting. Why do I even want to do this? I don't even know why I bother doing this. Well, you may find that it's not worth the effort. You may find if it's something really upsetting that's bad, you may just say to yourself, well, there it is again. I'm not into doing this. I have to decide if I'm going to stay or leave. That may be where it takes you. Um, Somebody else just said, well, they'll create inflections for you. They'll act like you're acting snarky even when you're not trying to. Yeah, absolutely. It is that's possible they'll do it, but don't react. Don't confirm that. Don't say, yeah, I am upset, or yes, I am being disrespectful, or I am showing disgust, or I am really angry. Don't go there. Don't, again, that's a hot button. See, with you, they know that if they accuse you of having an emotional reaction, that then may be a way to get you invested. So don't get invested. Just stay really like non-invested in this. They do tend to get, Amy's asking, do they tend to get defensive a lot? Yeah, completely. They completely defensive. And then Lady Emerald says they call it nagging, that I'm nagging them. Yeah, they'll call you as a nag, or mine would say, there you go again. He had a favorite saying, do you always love to create a storm in a teacup? That's his favorite saying. Yeah, and then he would accuse me of creating a storm in a teacup over nothing. Or then you'll end up hearing that you're not bringing it up fast enough in the right way. I mean, they're very good at throwing everything at you. It's sort of like one of those, like they're throwing things at the wall to see what sticks. You have to see it that way. Like, does this work if I say this? Now I'm going to try this. Does this work? They'll just keep going around and around as a way to really keep you worked up, off balance, so that see, the point is this: when we react, we are kept off balance and they're in control. We don't want that. That wasn't the point of the discussion. The point of the discussion was to simply get an answer. You weren't trying to one up them by bringing an issue up. You just wanted a solution. So don't buy into the fact that you're one upping them, or you're being problematic, or it's wrong for you to ask for some kind of response. There's nothing with that. And this isn't a competition. They'll act like it's a competition, but it's not a competition. So don't accept that interpretation of your behavior. That's not what you're about. You're just simply looking for a conclusion. You're looking for a solution to something. I think the other thing that often happens with a lot of us is that we end up just stop asking for their help. We just stop having them participate in anything. I'm thinking, like, if it's not a romantic partner, even if it's a family member, we'll go around that family member. Say you're trying to plan a holiday. Maybe you guys are thinking about who's going to get together and do what for Halloween. You just stop including this person in that discussion because it's just simpler not to go there with them. Yeah, that's one way you can work it, but then it doesn't really, it may have consequences, and you may find that you can't avoid every topic, that sometimes you need to go here with these people on these topics, on these issues. Yeah, I agree with you, Britt. Don't ever give in to the ego game. We lose every single time that we do this. Yep, absolutely. Becky's saying, I lived with a sister for years. I know she's had a personality disorder. Yeah. A lot of these personality disorders kind of feel similar. They have a kind of similar experience for those who are living around them. So it's kind of difficult to know which one you may be dealing with. So they could be, it doesn't necessarily have to be a narcissist. It could be somebody who has some kind of else, like a dependency or OC. There's one called obsessive compulsive personality disorder. They're just super controlling. Everything has to be done their way all the time. Yeah. So let me review the 3 points to be able to hold on to an argument, and they're really hard. It takes practice, and maybe that's the 4th point, is that you have to practice this. You have to practice this. It's not going to be something you can pull off right away. So every time that you end up in a discussion and it doesn't quite go well, walk away and ask yourself what didn't go well, And what could I do differently the next time so that you could then shift so you're more prepared when you have these types of discussions again? So the first is go in with a clear plan of what you're looking for out of that discussion. The second is be emotionally detached on how they feel about you or what's said to you. Don't defend yourself. The third is stay on point repetitively, no matter how exhausted you are with this, how much you feel like you're a broken record, stay on point repetitively. And the fourth is when you walk away and maybe doesn't go the way that you want, don't take that personal. See that as something that you can learn from, come back and try again in a different way the next time. So if somebody's asking, do they tend to be jealous? Absolutely. If you've seen the DSM-5 in the categories that they list of the 9 possible criteria for narcissism, jealousy is a huge one. It's one of the ones at the top, and I see it a lot. So, but it gets manifested in kind of odd ways. You might see it as like competitiveness or feeling like life's unfair, or it might be a one-upmanship or outdoing you. It could be they try to outdo you, but all of the, that's a demonstration of a competitive nature of somebody who just sort of really feels entitled, or they're also somebody who really feels like nothing ever works out the way that they want. It could be the inverse of entitled, which is they're always the victim. So both of those actually are a form of competition. They're either the best at everything or they're the worst of everything, and they'll fight you for those positions, which is really exhausting. Yeah. So if someone, what if he tells you have no feelings in a marriage? Can you say more about that? What happens? What's happening in your relationship? Or is he like, what's why is he telling you that? People say don't take personal what a narcissist says, but what if it's my ex covert posting exactly for me? I would say that's if I understand your question correctly, that's dog whistling. He's this person, I don't know, he or she is trying to get under your skin. That's an intent to be to be provocative, to get you to react, and if you react and get upset, then they've won. Then they feel like then they've achieved the goal of affecting you. So that's the hard part is learning to overlook this and then not reacting to it. Mine competes with me with everything and tells me how lucky I am to have him. Yeah, that's why I named my book Love You More, Love You More. That's where mine did it. He would say I would say I love you and then he would say love you more and then I would act like it's a cute little game and I would say no, I love you more. And then he'd say I love you more and I'll tell you it would never stop. It only stopped if when I stopped. So if I would just let him have the last word, then it would finally stop. And I had to just get to a place of realizing this was hard for me because I wanted this person to know how much I love them, and that was the point of why I said it. It wasn't to outdo him or outdo see who could outdo who. It was just more to express my feelings, and I had to realize that I had to walk away and give up on that, that I wasn't gonna be able to express my feelings because he made it into a competition. So there was never gonna be a warm moment, which is what I was intending. I was intending to have one of these beautiful places where we'd look at each other and say, I love you too. And then we'd kiss. That was what I was looking for. And what I would get was this upmanship, one upmanship. And then, so one of us would have to be the loser. And there's nothing warm or cuddly about a one upmanship at all. So that's why I named the book that. And the other part was because this person was serial cheating. And so it was ironic that he would play the love you more game because he obviously didn't love me more. Obviously. If you're cheating, you don't love your partner if you're cheating on them. Do you think they want to hear you love them so that they know that they're still controlling you? I don't know. I could see that happening. I could definitely see that happening. I'm not for sure that's always the intention though. It kind of depends on who's instigating it. Oh, that hurts my heart, Mariel. Mariel say I cringe when anyone other than my kids say I love you to me because it's so hard to believe. Their actions need to say love. Their actions need to say more, need to be the ones that actually convince you of their love. I agree with you. I do agree with you. Um, it sounds artwork. I see your question, but it sounds like it's in the middle of an explanation. I feel like I'm catching the tail end of that. So artwork is asking, what if you catch him cheating and he has no backup supply and he doesn't want to let you go? Well, why is that a problem for you? It sounds like a big him problem, but not a you problem. So yeah, what if are you able to just be okay with the fact that this person's blown it and you're ready to be out? Or is there yeah, I agree with you. If somebody's asking, are you trapped? Is there something trapping you in this situation? What's SAHM? I don't know what that acronym. I want to say shit out of luck, but that's SOL. That's not the same. So yeah, I would love to know what's SAHM. Oh, you're a stay-at-home mom. Yeah. Well, yeah, so financially, you're in a position of financial dependency, which means you don't have a lot of freedom. This is a tough situation, very tough situation. I was in a similar position where mine was a shared the company with me, and that he was part owner. So if I just walked out and left, I potentially was gonna lose half of the company, which had 100% of my capital and no capital from him, which I didn't wanna give him half of my capital that I invested into this company. So I was in a similar position, but different. I it comes back to yeah, it's a tough situation, really tough situation. I think the me that I am today, I would tell you because I was cheated on as well, and it was devastating. First of all, I'm so sorry, it's devastating. The me that I am today, I don't wanna be in a relationship with somebody who's cheating, unless they could admit it was a terrible mistake and they do a whole lot of work to fix the broken trust and to address the betrayal. And, if they're narcissistic, they're not going to do that. They won't take accountability, and they're not going to address the betrayal to you. So you'll end up, being the one who does all the emotional labor and work for somebody who's pretty checked out. Oh, Candy, I didn't buy him out. I just had to wait him out and get him to give up his half. So that's what I was doing. I waited another year. So what I did in my situation is I knew that I he had a lot of cards that I didn't have, and I needed to change I needed to wait until the circumstances changed. So I ended up waiting until I could leverage him to give me the other half of the company. So what I would recommend to you, if you're feeling like this is not savable and you can't put up with this, and this is just one of many more betrayals to come, I would be working really hard to finding out how I'm going to support myself and the kids. I know that's not advice that you want. It's not easy to hear, but I would begin to take steps in order to find a way that I could support myself and my family. Somebody's asking, what's dog whistling? Can we talk more about dog whistling? Yeah, so let me describe what dog whistling is. Dog whistling is when it's a topic that the 2 of you have that's loaded. Um, one of mine liked to it was funny because this didn't bother me. I thought it was hilarious because it's not true. My ex was a clothes hound. He was really huge into his appearance. Does that make sense? He's a serial cheater. So he was really huge into how he presented his appearance, and, he had a lot of clothes that he tended to take with him that were really important to him. But he accused me of being the one that was super invested in clothes. He was projecting. That's not true. I rarely buy clothes. I have a few pairs of shoes and I rewear them over and over and over. I mean, okay, it gives you a picture. So it's not describing me. And I frankly, it didn't bother me because it's not a hot button. That was where he blew it. It was not one of my hot buttons. So he would bring it. But say this is a really loaded situation for both of you. What happens with dog whistling is when they're in public, they'll bring up that topic about and talk about it regarding somebody else. So maybe let's again stay on the packing. They accuse you of overpacking and having to bring everything in the closet. So next time that they go somewhere and they see someone pulling a luggage, maybe it's only one piece of luggage, you're like, now there's somebody who knows how to pack. They'll do something like that. Now there's somebody, and everybody around you, them and you will think, oh, he's being or she's being complimentary. That person's just commenting on how that person's traveling. but you know that it was a dig at you because they accuse you of not knowing how to pack. So it was actually a put down to you, but it was done publicly so that you can't so that if you react like, how can you say that, or why would you say that, then everybody looks at you and like, what is your problem? He's just talking about so and so's packing and travel habits. Why are you taking this so personal? It's a great way of making you look bad in public by stirring you up in public. That's dog whistling. So a dog whistle is a high pitch that nobody can hear but the dog. That's what it is. This is a high pitch. This is a it's something that only two of you know that's being thrown out publicly and to get you to react when no one else understands why you're reacting. Yeah, it's abuser cause harms to the victim in public without and nobody else knows the true meaning of it. Exactly. Yep, it's a loaded topic being discussed in public by being assigned to somebody else in a positive way and as a way to infer that you're something negative about you. So she would spill her purse on the ground and yell, "What are you doing? Stop." Yeah, that is uncomfortable. Oh, thank you, Kate says Out of the Fog website has a real good definition on their in their glossary. That's cool. It's cool to know that they have that. They do love you to get reactive so that you look crazy. Yeah, I agree with you, Erica. They love that. That's very, very much true. Candy said that mine called him by the new supply's name as they were leaving as a way to insult her. Oh, that would be certainly a good way to hurt you that way. Oh, man. And then Squirrel says, which I love how the way you're spelling the squirrel, that's really great. Says, "Trust me, it's terrible when your husband's the pastor and it happens in the sermons." Ouch. Wow. Wow. Oh, wow. I'm speechless. That is really, really hurtful. Yeah, they do know how to get us. They really know how to get us good. And that, wow. I had that actually happen. The person who did it to me, it was at my sister's funeral. The pastor who did it didn't realize that he was dog whistling me, but I'm sure that someone close to me who knew me and who had issues with me set up, kind of told him some story about me, and then this person brought it up in the family prayer in public. Didn't mention me by name, but I knew enough of the situation to know that I was the one being referred to. Yeah, so it I can't imagine, Squirrel, that's really awful, really, really awful, terribly hurtful. So, do you wanna know how to deal with stop obsessing with your ex? Make sure to sign up for my be a subscriber of mine, and you'll get a free lesson on how to stop obsessing for your ex. So the link is in the link. It's on my website. So if you go to kerrymcavoyphd.com, you can see it there. I'd love to have you get that free lesson that I'm giving out for anybody who wants to learn how to stop obsessing about their ex. It's free to anybody who signs up for my newsletter. Erica is bringing up a good point, and I'm going to use your comment, Erica, as this kind of a good launching point. Is that she said it's a special place in hell for these people who do this. That's one of the hardest part is the fact that how many times are we in these toxic relationships and we just don't see them getting theirs. They just move on quickly. They move on to new relationships. They bounce from person to person. They act like they're almost like you ever now I'm dating myself. There used to be, I can't think of the name. It's the green creature that you could pull and do weird things like Mr. Stretchy, or I don't remember. And he snap back to shape and seemed to take all sorts of abuse, and then he'd be completely fine. That's what it feels like. It feels like people like this, oh, Gumby. Yeah, thank you. It's like playing with a Gumby, that they seem to sort of take all sorts of abuse, they do all sorts of weird things and they just snap back and move on like it doesn't, like they're Teflon, like nothing sticks to them, and move forward. Yeah, I this is where I have to let go. If I find that I look for retribution or life to be fair, then I'll just be wrapped up in a lot of anger and bitterness, and it's just not the way that I want to live. So part of it for me is to realize that my revenge is living my best life. That's how I deal with it. I don't look for them having a bad life. I just look for me to have my best life, and I know that because of their competitive nature, they don't want me to live a good life. They want me to have a crappy life. So I know that I'm winning when I have a really good life and I'm doing well and moving forward. That is my best revenge with these individuals. I do agree. I think Becky says they're really miserable people. I do agree that I that most of them are very shallow, empty, unhappy people, which is why they do all this work to hurt others is because they want to pass on the misery. So I do think that's possible that when we do well and we're happy and living our best life, that it bugs them because they're not doing that at all. Jane said, I was married to one, but now I'm divorced and free, and I watch him, and it got so scary. It got so be scary that I had to be divorced or I wouldn't be alive. And he did such horrible things. Well, I'm glad you're here, Jane. Nice to meet you today. Very, very nice to meet you. Oh, okay. So here's a provocative question. I will take this as a last question today. And sorry we're running late. I ended up having a technical glitch that slowed me down. But Roa wants to know, can I explain how misogyny and narcissism is linked? I'm not for sure it is linked. So let me start there. So I'm going to define narcissism and then I'll define misogyny, which is rooted in patriarchy. So narcissism is a disorder in which you fail to see other people as existing and their needs and wants and desires, them as a person doesn't exist very well in your head. So when you're considering how to go forward with whatever issue you're moving forward with, you just consider yourself. It's like you're the only person in the room. That's how I view narcissism. You're the only person in the room all the time. So you're always acting like you have to watch out for your best interests and you can't ever behave cooperatively with anybody else. Now, that to me is not related to cultural pressures, although I think it can contribute. I think there's certain types of environments that we can have more people be narcissistic for sure. So if you have a culture that does a lot of indulging and act like those people in that culture that only their opinion and matters, yes, they'll become very narcissistic. So certainly it can feed into it, but I don't think it's dependent on culture. I think narcissism exceeds culture. Part of it is biologically driven. So I'm not. That's where I differ. I think some people would say all narcissists are made; they're not born. They're created by the environment. I disagree with that. I think that it's a combination. Some are made, but some are born. So it's a kind of a both and problem. But I do think the patriarchy creates more of them. I think it sets those up who are participating it to believe that their needs trump everybody else's needs, and that then certainly can cause more of it to be there. So I see it that way. I hope that makes sense. So Becky's disagreeing. She says narcissism is derived from I can't say that word today. Supremacy. Is that how you say it? Supremacy in the culture. Yeah, certainly that contributes to it for sure. I'm not saying it doesn't contribute to it. I don't. I'm not saying that. They've done studies, twin studies, and they found that the rate of narcissism occurs highly between identical twins raised separately. So you could have somebody raised on the opposite side of the world, and if there's a narcissistic twin, there's 70% chance that other twin will also be narcissistic. That's not really a cultural problem. That's a biological problem. But I do think that you're gonna see some cultures have higher rates of narcissism. Let me give you another example. So in they looked at rates of schizophrenia, and they looked at it globally, and it's the same percentage regardless of what country or where you live. The likelihood of you being schizophrenic is exactly the same across the whole world. That would be very biologically driven for sure, because the rates are the same and people are being raised in very, very different situations. I have a feeling narcissism isn't the same, that the rates vary from country to country to country based upon what country you're in. So certainly how we raise kids and our independence, the degree that we value a person more than we value the community, that would be very problematic. But I think you're going to still find narcissists, even in cultures that didn't have that problem. They were very good, very communal and cooperative. Because here's how I see it. I think humans have a problem. I think I think it's been with us as long as we've been on the earth that we, and now this is a religious perspective, I just believe humans inherently can't be perfectly good, and we just don't know how to be selfless. And a very healthy person knows how to balance self-interest against the interest of others. And I don't see us, I think we're flawed and that we don't do that well. And whenever we don't do that well, we'll end up having, some of us will end up being narcissistic. So it is a fascinating question. I appreciate the question. It's super, super, super interesting. And it kind of depends on, partly, like you said, this is, like I said, this is an existential, religious question as well. Kind of, you're asking an ontological question of what is the nature of man? And all of us will have different ways in which we define man's basic nature. Some of us thinks sort of more humanistic, which is if we were raised in a perfectly provided environment that we would be a healthy human. I actually, as a person, don't believe that. So I don't think that's possible. In fact, I think the more that we've tried to create that a perfect humanistic environment, we've ended up with some pretty sick people. Well, it's not gotten better. I think it's gotten worse. So I don't think it's just a problem with culture, although I think culture certainly, certainly feeds into it. Yeah, very great philosophical question. I love that. Thank you so much. I do agree that culture does reward narcissists, that's for sure. You can, any power structure, and you can go all the way back. Anytime there's a power structure, you will see that those who are at the top tend more of them tend to be narcissistic, very much so. So they are attracted to power and they seek it out. I think it would be interesting if we could find a truly matriarchal society, even a historical example of one, and then see whether or not the rates of narcissism in their power structure was the same rates that we're struggling with. That would, to me, would be a very interesting question. I'd love to see the results of that. Well, this has been a fascinating live. I've got to hop off and go into another meeting. So thank you so much for joining us today and bringing up these topics. So Jane goes, "No, way worse now." I appreciate you being here, and that I'm always live on Tuesdays at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. Usually I run a few minutes late. Just be aware of that. Sorry about that, but I would love to have, and I always announce the topic the day ahead. So if you want to know what I'm going to be talking about, jump over to my YouTube page, which I hope you're following me there, and you can see when I post a live what it's going to be about, so we know what we're going to be talking about. And if you have a suggestion for a live, I would love to hear it. You know, you like, can you talk about XYZ? Some of them I've like talked about covert narcissism, female narcissist. I've talked about narcissist versus antisocial personality, but maybe you have some new angle of some topic I've not talked about or not talked about recently. So I'd love to have you bring it up so that I can address it. And be sure to sign up for my newsletter and get my free gift of how to stop obsessing about your ex. And oh, thank you, Maria. You're awesome too. And I appreciate you guys so much. Oh, Narchammer, I'm glad you're here and you're following me, and that I'm getting to know you. That's great. Co-parenting. I can tell you why I don't talk about co-parenting because I never had to do it. So I only know it from a outside perspective. But I certainly could talk more about how to help your kids with a difficult parent. Certainly could talk about that. So, all right, you guys, have a great rest of the week, and I will see you here back next Tuesday. Bye bye.